Hi everybody. Wow, this is the life. I seem to have found a deer hide in part of the woods that I was travelling through, so I thought I'd take the advantage of checking it out, and this is pretty cool. I must admit I haven't seen many deers around here, so it could be a photography, maybe, I don't know. I've no idea, but it's just here and I thought I'd use it. Wow, this is cool. So, the purpose of today's video is all about sharpening, and why it is really important to be able to keep your equipment, i.e. your axe, your knives, sharp in the wilderness, or just generally carving. I mean, if you own the tools, then you should have the skills to keep them sharp so they don't go dull, because obviously a dull knife or axe is actually more dangerous than a sharp one, because you've got to put more pressure on it, and that causes, or could cause, you to slip and cut yourself. So I'm not saying it's not going to happen with a sharp knife, but it's just better if you've got sharp tools. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through the method that I use, and I think personally it's a good method. Everybody's entitled to, or they may have a better method or do a different method, and I am aware that there are methods out there, but this is just a method that I use. I've got one method and I just stick with that, and it works for me. So hopefully you'll, if you're already using it, good for you. If you're not, hopefully you'll learn something from it. So I just can't take my eyes off the view. It's quite nice up here actually. So I'm just going to sit here for a couple of minutes, take in the view, and then we'll crack onto it, get it going. So catch you in a minute. Okay, so let's get started. I must say today is quite windy out here, so if the wind, if you can hear the wind a lot, there's nothing I can do about it, I do apologise, but let's crack on with this, and I'll talk you through some of my equipment and how I do it. So first things first is I use the King's Ice Bear Waterstones, and the reason I use these is because they're just a lot cleaner to use in the environment. When I first started out doing my bushcraft, I was told to use oil stones, but to be honest with you, I just think that's what most people are using at the time. So, but the only trouble with ice stone, so I'm getting my words muddled up now. The trouble with oil stones is that they can sort of contaminate an area that you're in, i.e. the woods, or at home, or wherever you're sharpening. So it's a real messy game, and I did that for a while. And you take oil, it leaks in your bag, it gets everywhere. It's a right nightmare, and you've got to wrap your stones up so it doesn't you get oil on your clothes, and for me it was a nightmare. So when a friend introduced these Waterstones, it was like heaven. Oh man, what a big difference. They are quite expensive, I believe. Saying that, I've not bought one of these in, I'd say 20 years. I've had these a long time. As you can see, the boxes are pretty much just barely holding in there. Right, so here we have a 250 to 1000, and that gives me quite a coarse stone. So if the blade is in a real bad way, it's got some nicks in it or whatever, I can take that out or work this out with a 250, and that's quite rough, I'd say. Not too bad. Okay, you don't want it super rough, because then you've got to, as you go down through the stones or up through the stones and the higher the number, you've got to do more work on that. So it's easier, sort of 250, 1000, and then if you want to, you can go on to a 6000, which is like the one before your strop, which I'll show you in a minute. So we've got 250 and 1000 on that stone. I've got quite a few of these at home, and then you got, again, you got 1,000, which is the same as on that one, and then you got the 6,000. But as you can see, that is super smooth. And the thing with these is that you have to soak them really to sort of get the benefit out of it, because these really do work. I'm not saying you can't use them dry, but I don't. So that's my advice to you, is use them wet. What you can do is that if you're lucky enough to own a couple of these, you could saw that in half. Okay, don't cry. And just use half of it in the field, because it's easier to carry half of that than it is whole of that. So you could do that. I haven't, because I don't want to saw one in half. So, but I mean, I could. I've got a couple of spare ones. So that's one option. And the other option is that you can just make sure they're sharp before you go. But you do need to be able to sharpen them in the wilderness if you're going for a considerable amount of time. So what I do then, sorry, I've got this itch in my ear. So what I do then is I'm gonna just move these out of the way. What's really handy is if you get one of these as well, right? I mean, you don't have to have these. I mean, for ages I never had one of these. I just used to do it at home on the work surface. Because there's so much water in the stones when you're at home, you can just put it on the surface and it just locks in there. It does slide about a little bit. I'm not going to lie about that. So right, so having one of these clamps is well handy. I am going to start off with 1,000 because the knife that I'm going to sharpen is not that bad. So I'm just going to pop that in there like that, clamp that in. Okay, so I know I'm fortunate here to have a log to lean on. You could do it on here if you found a nice little area, and there's somewhere over here. But because we got a log, and why not, we're going to use this. So first things first is we need to wet the stone. So I brought some water with me. I must admit I did soak these last night just to make sure that they wet. Because if you don't wet them in the wilderness, I mean, if you're by a clear running stream, you can put that in there for, I don't know, 10-15 minutes, get all the air bubbles out and let it soak the old water in, right? I mean, I know this is quite wet still, but here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chip some water on there. As you can see, it's just sitting on the top. If that was dry, that would just soak in. You can see that. It's just sitting on the top there, which is what we want. Okay, so the knife that I'm going to be sharpening today is my Allen Woods knife. This is the Woodlaw knife, as they call it. Again, this is something that I've had a very long time. I've had a very, very long time. I don't know. I can't even remember when I bought this. It was such a long time ago. I don't know. It's more. Well, my daughter is 16, and I must have had it at least 3 years before she was born, I'm guessing, maybe, so sort of around about that sort of time. So it's quite an old knife, but you've got to look after them, and as they're saying, you look after it, it'll look after you. So what I do, this is just my way of doing it. So make sure you've got water on there, because the water is going to lube, obviously, the stone, and it's also going to make it slidey. It's going to take the dirt away, or the dead metal, should we say. So what I normally do is I lay the knife flat on the Waterstone like so, and then I literally push it to the bevel, because obviously this is a Scandi grind. So you've got a flat edge there, the main blade, and then it goes off onto the bevel there, which is the Scandi grind. And also we have to be aware that this edge here goes sort of round, and that can be the trickier part when you're learning how to sharpen, because you can't just keep it flat. So what I do again is lay that flat, push the blade forward so it's actually on the Scandi grind. I normally keep one hand on the handle and one hand on the blade itself like that, so I can make sure that it's firm on the ground. What I want to do is I want to start on this end of the blade and finish on that end of the blade. And what I do is I normally just slide it along, but I'm actually got the handle slightly forward there. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to lift the handle up slightly, just And what that does is it helps keep the blade, or the Scandi grind bit, the bevel, whatever you want to call it, on the stone itself. And all I'm doing is I'm trying to cut like the corner off of the stone. So you're just sort of coming around like that. And obviously you have to lift slightly to keep it on, because that's the really important part. When people learn to sharpen knives, they tend to, this part of the blade here gets neglected quite a lot. So, but okay, so what we're going to do then, push that down. So I'm just gonna, that was one, so that's two. I normally do about 6 of these. You can do 10, 15, but I wouldn't do too many, because I'll show you what we're looking for. So let me go. So it's 1, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. See how I'm just swooping it around there, picking it up, going across, and that just goes to the tip. Right, so I know you might not be able to see that, but if you can see that, you can see that I've taken the metal up all the way along there, and that's what I want. I mean, if the knife is, let me say, in reasonable condition, what sort of word is that? If it's in reasonable condition, you should be able to look down the blade there, and if it's a good, if it's sharp enough, you shouldn't be able to see any light reflecting back at you, because if you see light reflecting back at you, you know you've got a dull spot. Obviously that's the point of sharpening a knife. One thing we never do is do that, because obviously the inevitable is going to happen. What I normally do, because what I'm trying to do, when you sharpen a knife, you should get your nail and just pull that along the bevel there. And as you sharpen it, the more you sharpen it, sometimes you'll get a wire, what they call a wire edge. And that wire edge is just the metal, obviously as you're sharpening it, the metal comes this side. And what that does is that's taking off metal. But what you've got to be careful of, as we go through the process, we've got to eliminate that wire edge. And I can feel on my knife that I haven't really got one. So, a bit more lubrication, i.e. water. Because this black stuff on there, as you can see, is the metal coming off the knife itself. So just a bit more. Don't let that go dry, keep it wet. Okay, I'm not putting a lot on there obviously. So right, so 10 this way. Okay, same again. Right, make sure you pull that across to cut the corner off. So it's lay it flat on the bevel, start in the corner, one end of the knife, finish on the other end, and then we're going to pull it up and round like that. Okay, so we do that again 10 times. When you get used to doing this, it just becomes second nature. You just swoop it around in it, and it doesn't take very long at all. I mean, really doesn't. So okay, I know that this knife is not that bad and it doesn't need a lot of work. So depending on the condition of your blade, you may have to do that, I don't know, several more times yet. So you do another 10, do another 10, but keep it symmetrical. 10 that way, 10 that way, 10 that way, 10 that way. Try and keep it the same. I mean, 6, 10 doesn't matter. I think I've done 10. I said I'd do 6, but it doesn't really matter. What's more important is you're trying to keep it consistent, right? And it doesn't matter if you sort of go, oh, I've forgotten how many I've done. Just try and guess, turn it over, come back the other way, okay? It's not rocket science. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to feel the blade to see if I've got a wire edge. That's pretty good. So, I'm pretty happy with that, even though I know it's not in bad condition, because I look after my knife, like you should. So, before I go on to the other 6,000, because I'm saying it's 1,000, we're going to go on to 6,000. Before I do that, if there is a wire edge on there, the way to sort of make that a little bit less of a wire edge or thinner, or get rid of it, is you have to alternate it, one that way, one that way, one that way, one that way. Okay, so that just sort of makes the wire go like that. But it's just good practice to do that anyway. So I'll put a bit more water on there. Wow, that wind's getting up. No trees come down. So we're just going to alternate it. One way, one the other way, one the other way, so on and so on. So, okay, lay it flat on the bevel. One that way. That way. That way. I mean, you can see at sort of an angle there. I mean, I'm not level. I'm that way, but you can go level if you want that way. I just, over the years, that's just the way it's happened for me. So that way, that way. Because I'm talking, I've lost count, but I'm not too worried about it. I mean, you could go on this way. If you wanted to sharpen a knife this way, you probably could. Okay, don't forget to pull that angle up there. Cut that corner off. Okay, just shake the water off. Let's have a look at this. I'm looking down there. That is sweet. Yep, I can't see any dull edges on that at all. What's really also something to look out for is making sure that when you look at the back of your knife, i.e. there, that your tip, your blade sort of tries to stay in the middle, because obviously you have to keep that blade in the middle. That's why it's really important to get that aside, because you don't want it sort of one way more than the other, because it's going to wear sort of funny really. You can tell when you look at it from edge to edge. I mean, that's pretty good, that's pretty good. Okay, I'm really happy with that. Okay, so I'm on my 6,000, and what I'm going to do is, obviously it's wet. I mean, sometimes the water leaks from the other side and it goes on this side, which is quite handy. So what I want to do now, I mean, you're supposed to have an Agora stone or whatever they call them, and you sort of, it not only does it level, keep the stone level, because obviously it's really important not to get any dinks in this, because you can easily cut these stones. They are so soft, it take chunks out of it. And it's easy, it's really important to keep them flat. So what I'm going to do, I haven't got that little stone, just can't find it, don't know what happened to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the same as we did on the other side, and I'll show you, hopefully we get some like a little paste that you get. Anyway, so same again, knife flat, down on the bevel, make sure the handle's forward, got a hand on the blade, hand on the knife. So you go 1, 2, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and then back this way. 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10. Okay, see this black stuff there? That's almost getting sort of a pasty. What you want to do, because this is like the honing stone, or just before we go to the strop, you can use this. This actually makes it go quite shiny, as you can see on there. So what you do on one stone, you get sort of like this sort of marks left by the stone, and as you come onto this one, you can actually get rid of them if you do it enough times. So if I do it a few more times, okay, so that's looking really good. I can also see that the blade itself, the bevel edge, is almost taking on a mirror-like image, because it's starting to take away those marks left by the other side there. So that's pretty good actually. I'm really happy with that. I mean, it didn't need a lot, like I said before, it sort of really didn't, but I wanted to show you the process, and the process is the same when you come down through the stone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, before I go to my stropping, I've got to do my alternate 10s. So 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10. Right, so I'm just going to feel that to see if there is a wire edge on there. Probably slightly, maybe there. I can feel one there. So you can keep going, and obviously that just wear that down, wear that down, wear that down. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and take that off on the strop, because the strop is almost one of the most important parts, or the finishing process of sharpening your knife, and it's really important to do that, because that's like almost, it's like putting polish on your car. You wash it, you put polish on it, it's going to look better, it's going to do the job, your paint's going to last longer. And stropping, obviously you're not putting polish on it, but you're sharpening it. It's the last process. It's going to look after the knife if you do it well. And if there's a wire edge on there, it's going to take that off. Oh man, the wind's getting up. So the other, just before I do the stropping, there is another method that you could use if you got a little stone in the field, and that is we can do circular motions like that. And that's one way that I've actually done it before. I mean, I'm only very lightly touching the stone here. So, but what I'm doing is I'm just doing anti-clockwise circles, and I'm literally going from one end to the other. But when you do it, you want to use the whole stone, because obviously you want to keep the stone as flat as you can, right? And you're just doing little circles like that. Again, you do the other side like that. And that is another way of doing it. I don't do it that often. I only do it if I've only got a small stone, and so obviously on a small stone you can't do the full length, or for whatever reason. So that is the final part of that, and that is, I'm assuming, razor sharp, good enough to carve with. Just another little tip: this black goo on there, if you put some on your finger, just move this that way, and then you just don't go on the blade itself, but if you do go on the blade, just put that down there like that, so it's flat, and you can literally take any marks off, because that's like an abrasion. It just helps it clean it up, clean the knife. I mean, sometimes when you carve in woods like sweet chestnut, you get this like bluing on there, and obviously that's from the tannic acids, and that does mark, it's a bit like oak, it marks your knife if you're using those sort of woods. And to help get those off, you can do it this way. When you sharpen your knife, you just get that old black stuff on the finger there, and you can just literally rub it on there. I'm being careful not to go to the edge there, because obviously the knife's sitting up there, but you can get quite close. If you push that blade on there, you can get quite close there and just take some of those marks off. It's quite a nice little tip. Okay, you can wipe along the top there. It just helps, keeps it clean, you know, because it's an abrasive. So as you can see, that's come up quite clean there. I mean, it wasn't that dirty anyway. So let's talk about the stropping then. Oh, I've got to stretch my legs. Right, okay, so one good reason, hang on a minute, my camera looks tilted. Let's just sort you out first. How about that? I think that's a bit better. Right, okay, so one good reason to wear a leather belt, we should all wear a leather belt because they do come in handy, right, is I'm going to strop my knife with my belt. I always have done, it's always the way I've done it. I mean, you can put, I don't know, a strop on a piece of board, you know, glue it on there so it's flat, stays flat. I mean, this works for me. I've actually got knife marks in there where I've cut it, obviously accidental. But I tend to find that because my belt is so worn, I've had it forever, is that distinguishing the front from the back is actually getting really difficult. But what I'm going to do, I mean, you can use the back, you can use the front, it's up to you. Okay, one side's smoother than the other. I would suggest you use the rough side if you want to keep your belt nice. Okay, so that's obviously the back side, which I do. So luckily enough, I found this log here, which just so happens to be in the most convenient place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it upside down, back side, who were misses. Do you know what, my belt's so old I can hardly tell which is the good side and the bad side. Okay, let's have a look. So okay, that's the good side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that on there. That is just purposely positioned. So what I'm going to do, I've got some stropping paste which I use. What have I done with it? Bear with. Here we go. This is a stropping paste which helps. Again, it's a bit like the honing stone now. It's a sort of similar process. What you can do, you can warm these up. I mean, they're a bit sticky. This is fine. You can get different ones when you get them on eBay, whatever. I mean, all I want to do is literally rub some of that on my belt, like so. Looks like I'm polishing it. So make sure there's plenty on there, all over. Don't be stingy. Okay, so I'm going to put this away. So, I mean, it hardly uses any. I can't remember what this one is. I mean, it gets everywhere. But it is literally like polish. Okay, so this is, like, again, I say this is, I can't emphasize how important it is to do this. Okay, don't cut this because it's just I need my knife. If you're going to sharpen your knife from start to finish, do it properly, because otherwise, like, I mean, when I started in the early days, I didn't strop, and I used to have a little metal edge on the edge, little wire edge, and it used to break off, and I used to have a dull spot. It was this actual knife, and it was like, oh no, my woodlaw knife, what have I done? You know, whatever. I mean, obviously, over the years, I've managed to get it out, all those little breakages on the wire there, because when the wire breaks when you're carving, it will literally take a chunk of metal out. Not huge, I mean, just enough to make your knife dull. So honestly, I'm telling you now, don't have the heartache that I had. So really important. So there is normally a minimum amount of strops you want to do, and I would say it was probably 50 is minimum, and that, you know, 50, 100, even 100 is probably not enough. Okay, because it's not like the stone, where the stone can take off lots of metal. This is a more refined way of literally buffing up, because it's not a sharpening, it's more of a buffing up your blade, and that is the real important process. So make sure you haven't got any water on there, obviously from your stones, which I've got a little bit of dirt on there, not too worried. So what I want to do, I want to draw the knife back, because obviously, stating the obvious, if I go that way, I'm going to cut my belt, which I don't obviously want to do. And this is like, I'm just going to have, it's going to be like that, and it's just going to go down like that. Again, remember that edge there, that's important to do that edge. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go like that. I'm pushing it quite hard. Okay, be careful you don't cut your hands. Okay, you can hold that round there if you want. I mean, I've done it for so long, I'm not too worried about it. But obviously, you know, be aware. I mean, you should just sharpen this up. This is going to be razor sharp. If you go and hit your hand, it's going to friggin' hurt. So, okay, so what I normally do is I literally just warm the belt up with that. I'm trying to, it's probably moving some of that paste around so it settles. Okay. When you get a bit quicker, you just do this. Okay, I'm just flippy flopping it, so I'm going that way, taking it off, turn it over, come back, turn it off, and so on. And that's all you have to do. But say, make sure you get all of the blade. You don't have to do it fast, it's not a race. Okay, so I'm gonna call that quits on that. I don't know how many I didn't count, but I know it was up there. But like I said, I can't emphasize enough how important this stropping is. So don't skimp on it. Say, if I say 50, give it 150. Honestly, it's really worth it at the end of the day. So I reckon, yeah, I've probably done over 100, I reckon. So I'm going to just clean the rest of this crap off here, because obviously I've got some of that stuff on there, which is horrible. Clean that off, and then we're going to test it to see if it's sharp enough. And I'll show you the way that I test it to make sure that it's sharp enough and there's no dinks or there's no dull edges on it. So let's go and do that. I'll go and clean it off, and then we'll do that. So, okay, so the test to see if this is sharp enough is I'm going to try and cut this paper, and obviously you've probably seen this before anyway, so it's not as if it's a party trick, but it is it does tell you a lot about what's going on. I'm not trying to go zip 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 trying to cut this paper really quickly to be impressive. What I want to know more importantly is what's happening on the blade and where on the blade there might be a problem, and the only way to do that is take it through the paper reasonably slowly, because then you can feel any nicks. Again, I'm not interested in going zip 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 and shaving hairs off my arms. That's cool, I mean that's cool if you want to do that, so Crocodile Dundee and all that, you know. Right, okay, so I'm just going to put that in there, and I'm just trying to feel for any flat spots. A flat spot will rip it. Normally if you get any problems, it's normally on the edge of the blade. See that there, look, see, it ripped it there. So I need to investigate that, so I'm just going to put, because I know from there to there, that's pretty damn sharp. So I'm going in. It could be just the way that I was curling the blade. Can't really get a feel of it there, so yeah, maybe on the edge there, maybe I've missed a bit. I've looked down the blade, I'm going to be honest now, I am absolutely going to be honest. A bit of crap on there. I can see on that blade there that I've missed, there's a little light spot there, and that is what is ripping the paper. Okay, I could probably try and stop that, or like many times you got to go back and start again. Okay, so I'm glad I had that there, because then that sort of shows you the attention to detail that a paper can pick up sometimes better than your eyes. So we do it again. So it's not bad, but I know right there it's not as sharp as it could be. Now it could be where I wasn't pulling it around enough, maybe, but that certainly needs addressing. I can see the light reflecting back there. I cannot see the blade there, but right there I can see it. So that means only one thing: if I want to get it done properly, I've got to start again. And okay, even though that can be a little bit demoralizing, if you want your knife sharp, you've got to do it, okay? And that's just the way it is, okay? So that's a learning process. So I'm not going to sharpen it now, I'll do it later. What I want to do now is I want to talk about the axe and how important it is to keep that sharp. So let's go and have a look. Right, okay, so knife, slightly bit of a dull edge on the right on the tip there. I'll address that later. I'm not too worried about it today. I'm not doing carving today, so I don't need my knife. But I will do it. I will address that area, because obviously that part of the knife is, you know, you do use it. Just one other thing which is probably worth mentioning, I can do at a later date on another video, is if you're at home and you're sharpening your knife, it's really maintenance. So why not just put some polish, brown polish, onto your sheath, because obviously that keeps it waterproof and makes it look nice, take some of those scratches out. And also, if you want, you know, just put a bit of oil on the handle. You know, I use Swedish oil, that works pretty well. I mean, it's literally just looking after your knife. So every time, generally when I clean or sharpen my knife at home, which is quite regularly, I must admit, it's maintenance time. And you know, again, if you come out in the field, in the woods, wherever, and you know all your equipment is tip-top condition, you know it's not going to let you down. Okay, I mean, I know mine's got a little bit of a dink on the edge there, but I could still carve with it. I'd still be quite happy. It would probably niggle me more knowing that it's got a little bit of a dull spot on the edge here, because I can be a bit of a perfectionist. Okay, so the fact that I let it go then is a first for me. But anyway, that's the knife done. Let's move that out of the way. So let's talk about the axe then. So the axe is equally as important as the knife. Some people might say more so. I mean, you can do a lot with an axe, obviously, and it's really, really important to keep this as, if not sharper than your knife. And there is a different method that I use, which what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you with these stones, and in my bag, just bear with. is I've got one of these grands for Bushstones, and you've got obviously fine and you got coarse. Okay, I don't know what numbers they are. They're not huge numbers. I wouldn't say they're up there. They're pretty good. They do the job, but I must admit I would prefer these over that any day. But this is just so handy to take in the field. It really is. It's got its own little slip block. And again, I see people using these dry. Fine, that's fine. I'd rather use water on it, give it a bit of lubrication. They do work so much better when they're wet. Okay, so I will show you, go over that shortly, but I would so much prefer to use one of these. But again, in the field, this is better than nothing, and they're pretty good. I mean, they're pretty good. I've used them for years. So what I'm going to do, I need to inspect my axe to sort of see what condition it's in. I'll be honest with you, I haven't used this for a little while. I've got so many axes, I chop and change quite a lot. So first things first, take the sheath off, put it somewhere safe. You don't want that to get dirty, wet or whatever, especially out here. You can lose it so easily in leaf mold, and which has happened. Many years ago, one of my students was using one of my axes, and he went off, chopped some wood, whatever. He come back and he said, oh, I've lost the sheath. And I said, what do you mean you lost the sheath? You should have put it in your pocket. He said, well, I put it on the ground and I moved around this tree, whatever. When I went to put the sheath on, I looked down on the ground and he couldn't see it. He could not see it at all. So I had a group of people, we all went over there, we did not find it. To this day, we cannot find it. I mean, that was probably, okay, I'm not going to give you a time difference, but it was probably around about 15 years ago, maybe. No, yeah, 14 years ago. I've never gone back and looked, obviously, but that's why it's really, really important to look after that sheath, because you don't want to be carrying this around without a sheath on. Honestly, seriously, I mean, when we had to carry that one out without a sheath, it was like a loaded gun. Honestly, it was just so horrible. So okay, so it's obviously not an axe course, so we're not talking about the axe safety. That's another time. So what I want to do then, again, I want to look at my blade to make sure that it's got what condition it's in. I mean, how much work do I need to do to give this to put it back to, you know, a really sharp edge? And I'm looking down that now, and I can't see any visible. Oh, there's one there, right there is a dull spot. So I know I've got one, which is a good excuse to sharpen it up. So here we go. Okay, that's the Grants for Brooks axe. That's the small forest axe. Okay, so what I'm going to do, because it's not that bad, I don't need to go mad. Okay, I don't need to go down to 250 or whatever. I'm just going to stick on this 1000 here. I'm not going to use that one because it just doesn't need it. It just needs, if anything, just a little touch up. So I mean, we could, if we wanted to, sharpen it the same way as our knife. Okay, just again lay it flat, but it's really important. Obviously, this isn't a Scandi grind, so we have to be more important about where we lay this on our Waterstone. Okay, but it's basically just try to keep that edge of the blade there right on the edge there, because obviously it's really difficult to find that edge there, but I know it's there. So if I wanted to, again, I could just do that. Okay, 10 goes that way, okay, and 10 goes that way, but I don't generally do that way with axes because it's just not practical. So what I normally do is this. I normally, again, hold the axe with one hand, hold the blade with the other. Don't be afraid to put your fingers near the edge because the blade hopefully is going to be on the edge. And all I do, obviously it helps to be comfortable, all I do is small circular motions. Again, I'm going anti-clockwise and I'm using the whole blade. I'm trying to go from one end to the other, but also I'm trying to cover the whole stone. The reason I'm doing that is because obviously I don't want any uneven parts on my stone. That stone, this Waterstone here, has got to be flat, or as best as flat as you can get it. Okay, you can do little circles And see that water there? See, I mean, there's a fair bit of metal coming off of that. See there, I know where my trouble area is, and if you've got a trouble area, if you want to, you can just work on that little area like that. Yeah, and then just sort of move it along. Don't stay there too long. Okay, all the way along. Making sure that the tip of the edge is touching. Obviously you don't want to be sharpening this bit as opposed to that bit, so just be aware that your edge is touching the stone there. Okay, so the other way, same again. We've just gone from that side, we're going to go to that side, same again. Sometimes this can be quite difficult when you're learning, because some people can't just sort of go left to right, but again, you know, if you want to sharpen these up quite well, you've got to be able to do it. You've got to do it, you know what I mean? Okay, just being aware where I am on the stone, move around. Let's have a look. Yeah, I've still got a flat spot there. So back again. Don't have my logs moving. Okay, a little bit more water. See all that sort of paste type coming off there? Circles all the time, just keep going circles, keep going in circles. It's really important, because we're going this way, obviously we want to be careful we don't dig into the stone itself, because you can take chunks of the stone out. On the other side. I mean, if you're near a stream and it's pretty clear stream, you know, because you don't want no grit on your stone, you can use the water from a stream. I'm just going to work that edge. Try and work the area that I know is a bit flat. Okay, let's have a look. Well, that to me looks like it's disappeared. But I have acquired a wire edge, so I've got to be aware of that. So I've got a little wire edge there, and feel it just on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go this side more, just a bit more. So what I don't want is that wire edge to snap off when I'm using it, so I've got to get rid of it. Again, it's come over the other side now, so it's flipped from that side, now it's on this side. So on this side, go over. I've lost the dial edge, but I've also acquired a wire edge, which is not, you know, that's normal. I'm going to finish on this side because I started this side. I went from that side, I've gone to this side. What I'm going to do now is I'm pretty, it's got the dial edge off, I've got a wire edge, I'm aware of that right there. Okay, I need to get rid of that. What I might do is just give that a little bit more there. Put it on this side. You noticed I've changed the angle on my, see I've gone from that, now I'm doing that. It really doesn't make, I'm achieving the same goal. Okay, so if you want to go this way, that's fine. The good thing about this way is that you're actually looking at the blade. Yeah, so it's again, I've gone like that. Okay, so that's two ways of doing it, which is cool. But I must admit, I prefer this way. So, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to wash that off. I don't want it staying on the stone. The stone's pretty good. A good way to just make sure that these stones are flat in the field is if you've got another one, you can just literally rub them together like that. And that will just sort of keep them flat if you get like a dink or anything in it. So back on the other side, see how that's quickly that's dried out there, look. So back on this side, which is like the honey stone, 6000. I'm just going to wipe that off of there. Okay, so same thing. This should almost get rid of our wire edge. See that black coming off on there? I'm not going to take that, I'm just going to leave that. That's going to help me sharpen up that blade a bit more. I'm just going to make sure that I'm paying attention to my edges, because it's very easy just to not get right in there. So there we go, so we got, it's pretty good. That wire edge is pretty much gone, just a little bit there. So, I mean, it takes as long as it takes, you know, you could do this for hours trying to get it. If it's in a real bad condition, I mean, what's a really good idea to do, if you've got lots of dinks in there, is to use a file them off first, get rid of those dinks instead of marking your stone. And then, well, you could even sharpen an axe with a file. A friend of mine did it. I mean, it wasn't brilliant, did the job. I mean, sometimes all you need is the job to be done. So, whatever works, as they say. But this is a really good way if you want to literally cut paper. Like I said, there's many ways to do the same job, and this is just my way. Okay, still doing my circles. Okay, I'm just going to go this side again. I mean, do you say, the more the merrier. All you're doing on this stone is honing it up. You really are just almost polishing it. You're almost polishing the metal. I mean, 6000. I mean, for hardness, I'm pushing quite hard. I'm not going to strain myself. I don't want to wear myself out, so. Okay, but the other side. Okay, let's have a look. See what we got. That looks really good. That looks awesome. Yeah, that's pretty good, and the wire edge has pretty much disappeared. So I will strop that in a second and we'll have a look. I mean, you could go that way, but I'm not going to bother, I never do. Okay, so these, again, how to use these is obviously, again, see the condition of your axe. If it doesn't need a lot, then you can just go the fine. If you need, you know, it's pretty bad, you use the coarse. And what you do, what I would advise is to wet that, definitely wet that. And I'm not going to do it because obviously I'm using the whetstone, but all you do, you're doing the same thing, you're just doing circular motions. And some people prefer these because you can literally look right in there and you can see where you're going like that. You can hold it. I mean, that's probably the most comfortable. If you're standing up, it's slightly different. So you're literally putting that right on the edge there and just doing circles. Make sure your fingers are out the way, obvious reasons. Okay, and then you do that, and then you turn it over, and then you do the same again there. Okay, make sure that's little circles. You could even put that down. Let's get rid of that. Wet that. You could even do that, little circles like that if you wanted to. But again, I would wet it, because wet it gives it lubrication. Okay, these people, I'm not saying it's wrong doing it dry. I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong at all. I mean, them to their own. But I just find that water just helps lubricate it, just flows a lot better and just get a better result. I think you're more scratching it with no lubrication. But, you know, I don't know everything. I don't possess to know everything. So that is one other way of doing it. So let's go and strop it. Okay, so before I go over there, okay, I want to obviously make sure I put it in the sheath because I don't want to fall over, because obviously my strop's over there. Okay, so back on the strop then. So what you want to do then is same as before, hold the belt in our hand. It's still got lots of stropping paste on it from before, so I'm not too worried. Again, same thing applies. Back again, you're just dragging it with an axe. Obviously take care, because it's not like a knife, it's small. Okay, but the knife is small and the axe is big. Okay, just be careful when you pull it through for your hands. Do it slowly, adding a little bit of pressure. Okay, be careful not to cut that belt, unless your trousers will fall down when you go home. Or pants, as they say in America. Okay, and all I'm doing is I'm trying to get the whole blade, just dragging it across, okay, and again, you know, 50 times is not enough. If I said 150, you know, you can add on another 50. So I'm going to strop this, and then I will get back to you, and then we'll see how sharp it is. Okay, so that's probably about 100 one way, 100 the other. Okay, so that should be pretty good. So, okay, I'm going to inspect the blade, which I'm doing now. I cannot see any light reflecting off that, but we need the paper to tell us that. But I'm also feeling it. I mean, it's really nice now. I'm really feeling it to see if there's any of that wire edge left, because sometimes if you haven't checked properly, you could leave a bit of that wire edge behind, or if you haven't honed enough or stropped enough, you could leave that wire edge behind, and that is, like I say, that's going to dull your blade as quick as anything. So I'm convinced there's no wire edge. I'm convinced it's pretty good. What I need now is my paper. So what have I done with that? Aha! So many pockets, I don't know what one it's in. So again, we're not looking to saw through it really quickly, we're looking to go for it slowly and feel where there might be a nick or a flat spot. So I'm just going to start one end, going through slowly. Wow, that's sharper than the knife. That's good, I'm happy with that. I'm really happy with that. So let's just do it again just to make sure it wasn't a fluke. All day, that is so sharp. I mean, it had a wire edge, it had a flat spot. Okay, and I didn't really give it too much. I mean, I didn't overwork it. I mean, it didn't take a lot, and that edge is really nice, really nice. I mean, I'll try to keep it on there, on that edge there. Okay, so that is good enough to carve with, okay? And like I said, if you've got these tools, then you've got to look after them. And that is just my way of sharpening an axe and a knife. I mean, there's crook knives to sharpen, there's all sorts of sharpening tools in bushcraft, and it really is important. But like I say, that was just my way. There are other ways, I'm aware of that, and I mean, everybody to their own. But I hope you enjoyed my one, the way I did it anyway. If you've got any comments, just let us know. I'm always happy to hear things, if you've got better ways to do it. I mean, I do realise you can sort of say sharpen it with sandpaper, sharpen them with files, and sharpen them with this and sharpen them with that. But I personally prefer the Waterstones. I've used them for 20 years or thereabouts. I mean, till my mate introduced me to them, which was probably between 17 and 20. I can't remember now. It's such a long time ago. So, but they have worked. Never let me down, always give me a sharp edge, apart from a knife there, which you can see, the paper brought out the problem. I didn't see it with my eyes, I must admit, I didn't see it. And then the paper brought out, there was a problem right on the end there. I need to go back and work that. It's not much of a work, it's just a dull edge like the axe had. I just didn't work it enough on the edge there. So that just goes to prove how important it is. Just by looking at it, you could just miss it, and how the paper picked up that area. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed my video on sharpening. I mean, there was going to be some carving projects coming up with that birch bark bowl, and so we will be using our tools for that. So that's one of the reasons why it's a good idea now to make sure that they are sharp. I don't want to be doing them on the day of the carving. So without further ado, I'm enjoying this weather, so I'm going to enjoy it a bit more. So take care, get out there, do some bushcraft, and I'll see you next time.